How many did the parade go on when you were a child, or been going on for a lot of years? It's an amazing thing, and some of the other hill towns that I know of, they used to have them, but they don't have them anymore. And I think it's a special tribute to the Buckland community, Buckland, Shelburne, that we continue to do this because it is so important. The word tradition comes from Latin to pass on or to hand on, tradere. What we hand on, what we impress upon our children is so important. And to have a tradition like this, one in which I'm honored to be a part of this morning. Last night I saw part of the PBS National Memorial Day concert. I hadn't seen that too much. But I was impressed by the way they told personal stories of people, because statistics don't tell the story of the war, how many people died and what nations. Those kind of large ways of talking about it, I think, don't affect us in the same way as hearing a personal story. And of course, it's very personal. It's very personal. Just look at the faces of the people sitting here, standing here. It's personal, and it's interpersonal, because each soldier has a web of relationships, of friends and families that are also impacted when they choose to serve their country. And as time goes on, and I'm here long, I think this is my 9th year, I begin to recognize the names on the monument and on the tombstones more and more, because I know the family names, and I know some of the newer generation and some of the older generation still here. And it becomes not just names on stone, but names on our hearts and in our hearts. In these names, and you all have impressed yourself upon my heart at the same time. So I am honored to be here. And I want to say that the soldiers who went away and didn't come back, and the soldiers who went away and did come back, and the soldiers who are there now, left with courage. Courage means large-heartedness. It comes from the French, corps large. They left with courage, but they also left behind saddened hearts, wounded hearts, broken hearts. And I read a story recently about, this is in England, about a couple that just got married. They were married maybe 3 or 4 months, and then during the Second World War, her new husband, got called to be in service, and she was at the train station. And she stood there, and they were trying to be brave, and she gave him a flower, and he was in the train window, and the train began moving, and they were waving and trying to be brave. And she began trying not to cry because she thought he wouldn't want to see that. And she had this feeling she might never see him again. And the train pulled out, and they were waving, but she watched it till it was totally out of sight. She turned around and burst into tears. And then another woman came up to her and just held her, who was going through the same experience. And they became lifelong friends. And so it's personal, and it touches hearts. The people brave enough to serve, we need to honor today and each year and many days, and to remember all the interpersonal connections that there are, and there are plenty. In one other story that I read, and this was about toward the end of World War II, the Russians were closing in on a certain part of the German city, and they were just destroying all the buildings, and they had such propaganda at each other. The Germans were saying the Russians were not really human, they were monsters, and the other way around. The Russians were saying the Germans weren't human, and back and forth it went. They dehumanized one another. And then one general wrote this story saying, after they had destroyed most of the city, when he got to the city, he saw the German children searching through the rubble for their parents. And he said they were crying just like our children were when they destroyed the Russian cities. And there's a bond of humanity that goes through this thing called war that I want, and you know it better than I do. Those who serve, they know how hard it is, and they know why MacArthur said war is hell. And I really hope that we can get the hell out, right? Get the hell out so that we don't have to do this anymore, and hearts don't have to be torn so much, so unnecessarily, and we have one another in relationships for a lot longer and a lot deeper. So I'm honored to be here. You all brought your hearts of flesh today, not hearts of stone, I know. And I'd like to close this first part with a prayer. Gracious God, on this Memorial Day weekend, we remember and give thanks for those who have given their lives in service of our country. When the need was greatest, they stepped forward and did their duty to defend the freedoms that we enjoy. O God, you yourself has taught us that no love is greater than that which gives itself for another. These honored dead gave the most precious gift they had, life itself, for loved ones and neighbors, for comrades and country, and for you and for me. Help us to honor their memory by caring for their families they have left behind, by ensuring that their wounded comrades are properly cared for, by being watchful caretakers of the freedoms for which they gave their lives, and by demanding that no other young men and women follow them to a soldier's grave unless the reason is worthy and the cause is just. Though their names may fade with the passing of generations, may we never forget what they have done. Help us be worthy of their sacrifice. Oh God, help us to be worthy. Amen.